You may have heard me say in the past that mind identification is a stable form of dissociation, or I could say disassociation. Dissociation typically being more of a clinical term, but the process of backing out of our experience, the process of moving away from, or apparently moving away from, our immediate sensory experience and into thought is what I'm talking about when I talk about this disassociation. And mind identification is a stable, socially endorsed, widespread, insidious form of disassociation. It's ongoing. It is causing a hypnotic state in most of the people walking the face of the earth for most of their waking hours. It may sound like I'm overstating the case, but as you wake up, when you have that first shift and then deepen the realization, it becomes pretty obvious that this is actually what's happening, and that largely what we're doing is avoiding emotion. We're avoiding uncomfortable sensations that have been linked to certain narratives that are fearful narratives. So this video is simply a way of trying to get at what it is that it feels like when we disassociate in this way. When we are feeling something uncomfortable, being able to look at the mechanism of avoidance, so looking at the mechanism of backing away or just immediately turning and running into thoughts. So the most auspicious or fertile time to do this is when you're feeling uncomfortable. You can do this when you're not feeling uncomfortable, but you'll have to find your way into some form of discomfort, which probably wouldn't be that hard if you're intuitive. But if you're already feeling uncomfortable or you're feeling contracted, you feel some place in the body or somewhere often in the center of the body somewhere, or in one of the chakras that feels contracted, that feels stuck, that feels dense, heavy. It may have more of a narrative than that. It may feel like emotional pain. It may feel like dread. It may feel like fear. It may feel like angst, anxiety. It may even feel like depression. But you can identify a center or a space or some area of the body that just feels dense, uncomfortable. Often it feels impenetrable, like you don't know how to work with it. You don't know what to do about it. I've talked about this a lot. One of the things I often say is it's helpful to start to examine the ideas about it, right? What are the ideas that come up about this, the beliefs that come up about this, like this is too much for me, or I don't know what to do here, or how do I heal this, or how do I get past this? It often has that flavor of I don't want this, right? It has the flavor of no, like saying no to an experience. So what I want to do is point out the mechanism of disassociation and how that functions. So if you can follow along and just look for anything in your body that feels contracted, anywhere in your body, even if it just feels a little bit contracted, just follow it. Put your attention there. Notice it. Let your attention go deeper into it, actually. Let the sensation or the contraction become more prominent. If it's naturally doing that, just let it continue to become more and more prominent. And as you do this, pay attention to the tendency of attention to turn away from it, to move away from it, to back away from it. Now, you may not notice actively that the attention turns around and comes back, bounces up into the mind. What you may notice is something like you feel like you're observing the sensation from a distance, almost standing back from it, like, ooh, I'm not sure what we should do with this. What are we going to do about this? You know, I don't know how to enter that, or it feels distant. Like it may feel like the sensation or contraction is down in the body, and somehow your attention or awareness is up in the head, or even, you know, more spacious than that. It may not even be localized to the body. There may be a sense of a field of awareness, and yet there's a contracted sense in the body. Any of these are okay. They are opportunities to see what that feeling of trying to essentially expand, when really what you're called to do is contract, or you're called to go directly into the sensation, which really won't feel like a contraction once you actually do it. It only feels like a contraction in reference to the tendency to expand away from it, the tendency to move away from it, the tendency to disassociate. So what we're doing is we're exploring that mechanism directly. And ultimately, all you're really called to do here is notice the tendency to pull away. Notice the no. Notice the tags, whatever those tags are. They can be a tag that says, this is too much, this is too scary, this will destroy me, I can't handle this, I'm afraid I'll end up in depression. Whatever the fears are, the tags, you may notice those. You may notice something that's just saying no. And you also may notice the sense of pulling away. It may feel like a hesitation. It may feel like an aversion. That's the disassociation. That's the tendency. Notice it. Just notice it. And you don't have to fight it. It's not about fighting anything. It's just about recognizing the mechanism. And then ask yourself, can I go a little deeper into the sensation? Can I just go into it? Can I go right there, fully into it? And just understand that this will be a push-pull process for a while. You may not be able to just dive completely into the sensation such that it's a non-dualistic, full-on experience. You may, but you may not. What is more likely to happen at first is that you'll bounce back and forth a little bit. It'll be a bounce into that spaciousness or that tendency to be up in the disassociated world of thought or of observation or of subjectification, as I talk about in my book. And that tendency is just kind of battling a little bit with the contraction itself, with the tendency to just go straight into it. And you may be able to actually notice, oh, okay, that's the tendency to expand or move away from. Let me go deeper into the sensation. You may actually find yourself able to go a little farther in, but then you bounce back out, and that's totally normal. So this is a very simple practice, and I would urge you to kind of work with this. At some point, you may feel like something just releases, like some seeming dividing line between expansion and contraction just releases, and you just fall right into that sensation. And as you fall into it, it could be anything. You may feel a sense of deep rest, deep peace. You may also feel a sense of fear. You may feel a very strong emotion. But often, if you do, the emotion will feel very pure to you. It'll feel like a pure sense of experience, a pure sense of, could be anything. It could be shame, could be resentment, it could be fear, it could be like I said, it could be joy. It could be bliss, peace. It can be anything. None of those, the quality of the experience doesn't say anything about how effective the process was. The process is effective if you're able to go deeper into the sensation. That's all we're doing. We're just going deeper in. We're not trying to get away from it or heal it or anything like that, right? And this is it. This is how you can actually recognize the tendency to disassociate. Once you recognize it, even if you haven't completely resolved it in the way I'm talking about, but you see it, you can feel it, you see what's happening, then you can track it throughout your day, right? This doesn't have to be in deep meditation to do this. You can track it throughout the day and see, A, what is it that makes you want to disassociate in this way? What is it that makes you want to pull back from experience? And B, what are the mechanisms you use to avoid going directly into that sensation, right? What are the habits? What are the go-to distractions? And there will be a lot of them. Yeah. Some of them will be healthy distractions and some will be unhealthy distractions in the conventional sense, right? But you might be surprised at what kind of things you use to distract yourself rather than just going straight into that. Once you learn to go into it, then you always have that option. You always have that that opportunity to go directly into the center of what's actually happening. It's where you're being called. So you might as well just go there, right? And it really is just a matter of habit. That's all it is. It's a subliminal, unconscious habit. We teach each other to avoid it. But once you learn that you can reverse that habit, that you can actually go directly in, then you're in a good place. You're in a really good place when it comes to shadow work and even deep shadow work. This will serve you well at all levels of emotion work and shadow work.